Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Trust. John's back with me again today. I thought our last conversation was so good and so simple and so deep and so hard. Whew. Okay, we're gonna dive into it. During the last video, we talked about the different teams that we're a part of. All right, we're not honing in on the team that we lead. We're honing in on the team that we are our peers, the team that we're on together. In our last video, you mentioned there's two different types of trusts. What are those two types of trust you mentioned?
So the two types of trust is the predictive trust. So which says that if I do this one thing, I know that Kathy will probably react this particular way.
Do you have an example? What is something where you predictively trust my reaction?
Okay, we've been married for 30 years. Predictive trust says that that you love me. This is where you can get in trouble because we take for granted our trust.
So that means you could get angry and say mean words to me because I know she loves me.
I know she loves me. Or you know what? She'll forgive me or whatever. That's predictive trust.
Okay. And
we can get in trouble.
Yeah.
Real easy with predictive trust.
Yeah.
But we operate every day in predictive trust.
Wow.
We spend probably more time in the predictive trust versus the vulnerability-based trust, which says, yeah, we've been married 30 years and my wife loves me and she's faithful and she does all this. But I need to not take that for granted. Vulnerability-based trust says, honey, what can I do for you that's going to build that foundation? Putting others first. All those other cliche things that we think of in trust when we start to dive into that word.
All right. Okay. So I need an example here. The word vulnerability, first of all, is just tough because there's certain things that I don't want to share. I don't want to be vulnerable with because I'm still figuring out. It is more of a popular word these days, but now you're linking this to trust. I mean, that's just like an oxymoron to me, or not maybe oxymoron, but just not a connection.
Sure.
Right? So I need an example of, especially maybe in business or in our working world, what does this look like?
So one of the major things, a concept that we have to talk about, and we don't want to talk about it, but we have to, is that in order to be part of a trusting team, which is what we're talking about, it requires you as a leader to go first.
Wait a minute. Stop right there a minute. Not only in line, go first in line. I just had this revelation. Let me see if I can get it out. So leadership, right? You've got the CEO and then the directors and then the managers. So there's a hierarchy. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get that first, second, I get that. But when you say go first, you're trying the things out, right? Let's go back to the pandemic. Talk about going first. The first nurse who went into the environment with somebody who had COVID. The first person who says, we're going to wear a mask in the office and I'm going to wear it even if I'm sitting in my office alone. That's the leader.
Right. You're not only going first, but you're actually paving the way. You're
figuring it out.
You are charting the course. You have to go first as it applies to vulnerability-based trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see it? It's coming together.
But it is so important because you have to go first. You have to show them that you're willing to enter in. And it's crazy in leadership. And by the way, if it were easy, there'd be a lot of leaders, but there's not. It's crazy how if you trust the process and you do that which we know is right, then your team will follow, or I should say there's more of a chance that your team will follow. Kind of that whole trust doesn't work when we say, do as I say, not as I do.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
No, that doesn't work.
Your team that you lead is going to trust because, hey, they're doing it first.
You have to go first. And that's another leadership principle that I just wanted to speak on for one moment. There's two types of leaders. There's a leader who leads in the front of the class and one who leads in the back of the class. Okay, the front of the class means like when there's change or when we're up against it. The leader has to be seen. Come on, guys, let's go. Let's go take that hill.
They're kind of pulling everyone to come with.
Right.
I kind of visualize
Right.
that happening.
And then once you got that synergy and once you got going, and then a leader can go to the back of the room. And that's kind of more of when leaders empower their team to do great things. You don't need to be seen. You don't need the spotlight because you've already shown the route and the way to go. This is where a trusting team has to start, is that leader has to go first if you expect your team to have trust.
So we've got a group of 10 leaders, the executives of the organization, right? Of course, there's always like the CEO, but really this is your peer team. I picture this as you bring to the table a new project idea, or you bring to the table a new piece of equipment to introduce, or a new piece of software to learn and dive into. You know, anybody on the executive team is bringing that to the table. All the executives are that ultimate leader that their team sees, right? Even though the CEO needs to be vulnerably going first, but all of them need to hash things out, make decisions, figure it out, and be that vulnerable leader who's going first for the team that they lead. Am I seeing this?
Yes.
Right.
And it's so important. And the concept is pretty parochial, but it's so hard to deliver it. It's so hard. Think about like the word unity. Unity is so important to have, and
Unity's a good team word.
It's a great word. But you need unity in order to have trust, right? There's that synergy. All these other big words that corporations love is a synergy, right? But think about this. And again, I said in the last episode that success leaves clues. There's a lot we can learn by nature. Think about, have you guys ever seen like a Belgian workhorse? So a Belgian, think of a Clydesdale, the Budweiser Clydesdale.
Big horse.
Big, huge horses.
Okay.
A Belgian workhorse is just that. If you have like things that you have to plow, you hook it up to a horse.
I wish I had one last weekend when we were on the ice trying to get all of
It was a lot of work.
the weeds off the, anyway.
But that's neither here nor
I
there.
digress.
That big horse can pull up to 8,000 pounds. 8,000 pounds.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's 4 tons. Okay? Now, you take 2 Belgian workhorses that have never met each other, how much do you think they could pull?
Okay, hold on. One pulls 8,000 pounds.
Yes.
And now we have another. I mean, if they each can do one alone, then 16,000 pounds.
Right.
Even if they don't know each other, that should still be.
Right. 24,000. 24. 3 times. 3 times. So 24. Now, if the 2 horses that you bring together are what we would call a matched pair.
Like they already did the death spiral, like eagles do.
Yes. Oh, not a little bit more than that. Like if they were brother and sister, or if they were raised together and lived in the same house. Now all of a sudden they have some type of synergy, right?
Sure.
Together.
Sure.
If one can pull 8,000, 2 can pull 24,000. How much do you think that matched pair can pull?
Because they have trust.
Yes.
So more than 24,000.
How about 36,000 pounds? Wow. That's the power of trust that we're talking about. A unified pair who have trust. Remember, the 5 effects of a high-performing team starts with trust. Not an average performing team, but a high-performing team. This is the importance of vulnerability-based trust, is to know that, you know what, if I fall, or if I, kind of what we said last time, lower my image or begin to lose my image a little bit.
Go below the line.
Go below the line. I know you got my back. Vulnerability-based trust. If I know you've got my back, I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to hide my weaknesses or hide the fact that I'm struggling. I got this at home. I have this problem with my children and I'm not all there today. That's where the vulnerability-based trust can come in. It says, honey, I need you to pick it up because I'm not right today.
Okay, hold on. We're going to back up just slightly because what you just said took vulnerability to a whole new level.
Right.
What you just said was being transparent with your peers about personal things.
It's life.
Hold on, because you know what? When I come to work, nobody needs to know my personal life. I don't need to share that. Where does that all come in?
So that whole, and this isn't the way, this is a way that I think, right? That whole work-life balance is a myth.
Oh, well, the earth is never balanced, so why do we think we can be?
You can't spend as much time as you spend at work and think that your personal life will not interfere with your professional life. It's nice in theory and a concept, but it's not reality.
Well, it's kind of like you spend 8 hours a day at work, you're going to take it home. Even though hopefully you can shut it off, shut the door, you're still going to take the emotion, the exhaustion. Things are still going to play in your head when you're at a soccer game or when you're making dinner for your family.
So you have extremely high character. And I'm not patronizing you. I believe this. In your line of work that you do, that character is who you are. That's the fiber of your makeup. And that is what makes you great at what you do. That's a personal trait, but
who
it
you
makes
are
come on.
makes you great at what you do. What an amazing concept.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me ask, who do you want to be?
Not do, be. So this is there's so many parts to having vulnerability-based trust. And yes, it does take some of that personal stuff, but it's okay if I have vulnerability-based trust in Kathy because she's not gonna hold it over my head. I'm not gonna have to pay for it later. I won't have to feel guilty because guess what? We're all just trying to survive. We're just trying to be human.
What if I am vulnerable and I am giving to the team that I'm on and I'm giving information or I'm sharing things, and what if they fail me? A peer. Suddenly I hear them talking to somebody else about something that I shared with them in a vulnerable moment.
Yes.
I'm done. I'm never going to share something again. Where do I need to go with that?
Okay, so that's reality.
Right.
And, I mean,
Yes.
and would I ask that person, I'm afraid of being vulnerable because it might bite me. Who has lived on this earth without failure? Who's the model of, I'm trusting and I'll trust everyone and they'll never let me down? No, man, we're infallible people. We make mistakes.
But wait, you said it, I don't know if it was last video or this one. We judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge others
By their results.
by the results. So I assume you're going to keep your mouth quiet about the fact that I'm going on vacation to Italy, but you are excited because you were just at Italy, or you are Italian and you kind of mentioned it to somebody else. And now, even though I've slipped up and maybe shared things I shouldn't, I know I'm forgivable. And now I need to be forgiving to somebody else who offended me.
Yeah, so, and there's a concept there that goes, we do make mistakes, and sometimes we drop the ball. So the principle here is that if that happens, you are to go to that person.
Ooh.
Go to that person and have a conversation.
Rather than just shut down and never talk to you again.
It doesn't work. It doesn't
That's not
work.
easy, though. It's not easy to come to you and be like, you ticked me off yesterday.
Yes.
Because you know what's going to happen? You're going to get emotional back at me, and you're going to bring back everything that I frustrated you with, and now...
Okay, so there's a couple things that we got to unpack here. Number one, all right, the principle that I'm talking about. You got to go to that person and have a conversation. If the result doesn't happen, the productive result doesn't happen, then you have to take a non-biased person with you to intervene. Hold on. So I go to this person by myself. Next, I bring someone who isn't going to tickle my ear, but a non-biased person to that person. If it still doesn't work, the third thing that I do is now we go one step up.
Like the boss.
Then we got to have a conversation.
But you know what just kind of triggered in my mind is, before we do any of that, we need to push.
Yeah.
We need to, because I need to ponder options, I need to unemotionalize, I need to slow down, and I need to humble myself before I ever go to you. Instead of being like, you ticked me off yesterday, that's not unemotionalizing, right? That's so going to bring you on your guard.
Yes.
And you're offended and you're trying to hold your own. And so all of that just goes right back to we need to push so that we're in the right place and we handle it appropriately and it's truly who we want to be.
So I know this is a sidebar, so we're going to take a side street if it's okay.
Sure.
Can I have permission?
Yeah.
When this happens and you have to have a critical conversation, crucial conversation, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
the 2 words you need to remember, and it changes the whole dialogue of the conversation. Affirm and acknowledge. Affirm what the person says or what that person did and acknowledge it.
Okay.
And it changes the whole concept of this conversation.
Ready?
Yeah.
You offended me last night. You told me you were going to make some ice cream drinks for us and you never even came up and did it. I was offended. I was mad.
And remember, we judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge others by their results. She's judging me by my results, not by my intention.
Your intention, you mentioned it.
I know.
You brought it up. How do you not pay attention?
Affirm and acknowledge. Honey, I understand that you really like ice cream drinks, and by me saying that I was going to do it probably got your hopes up.
Yes.
I am very sorry for that. I get why you were offended. I'm sorry.
So affirm means to apologize?
No, affirm means to understand what's being said.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that I agree with her, but I'm going to affirm, I now understand why you felt that way. Given the same situation toward me, I probably would feel the same way. Affirm and acknowledge what you're saying.
So you're trying also to understand
Yes.
first
Yes.
rather than being understood.
You just said that, but that is such a great concept that you should say it again. Understand before understood. Affirm and acknowledge, whatever words you want to use, because then the guard comes down. Just that, this role playing that we did, by me acknowledging what you said, kind of it stopped being like a he said, she said fight type
Right.
of thing.
When I go into these types of conversations, even though maybe I pushed and I'm unemotionalized, I still have emotion, and because I want to just cry. That's my emotion. I just want to cry because it's I don't want it to go bad. I don't want it to go the other way. I want to have a good conversation. So by you affirming and acknowledge, I felt my tear emotions back down.
Yeah.
I felt it and be like, okay, he's in the right place. We can have this conversation. I'm in the right place. We can do this.
Yes. And
Wow.
and I will make you an ice cream drink tonight. So it's amazing. It's an amazing, and I know we're talking about trust here, but affirming and acknowledging what that person has said. Listen, 98% of people who feel engaged at work says that the reason why they're engaged is because they have a voice. Doesn't mean they need to have their way. It just, they feel that they're heard at work, which again is one of the things that build a trusting team, is that they have a voice, not their way, a voice. By affirming and acknowledging what that person is saying, you're kind of saying the same thing to them back. I get it. I told you that I would do this for you and I didn't do it. I would probably be offended myself.
But you know what you're not doing? You're not getting defensive. You're not throwing things back in my face, making me feel guilty, bringing up things from the past.
Well, you could have done it yourself. You could have made it. If it was that important to you, you could have done it yourself. How does that feel?
It just reiterates my thought that, you know what, you're not trustable.
And so I have to go first, leaders, and affirm and acknowledge what they're saying.
Okay.
And then you're building that environment that is conducive to having a trusting team.
So let's back up. Vulnerability, trust. It's all about the leader going first
Got to?
in every emotion and act.
And it doesn't mean you're not going to get bit.
Right, right. Being a leader means that you are on the shooting block. In essence, it means you are going to be offended. It means people are going to let you down. They are going to fail you. Get out of leadership if that's not what you want.
Everything that you do will be under a microscope because
yes.
your team is watching you. And it's not fair, but it just is. And so you have to go first. You can't mandate trust. And when I say trust, it's vulnerability-based trust. You can't mandate it if you're not living it. And it's so hard. But those teams that do are high-performing teams. Now, there's 4 other things that Pat talks about in his book, 5 Dysfunctions. Trust is the first. It's the foundation of everything. But when you do that, then the other 4 come along.
And like you said, Patrick Lencioni even talks a lot about trust because it is that foundation.
Spends the most time on that.
Okay. All right. Well, here's the challenge. Be vulnerable with your trust. Figure out areas that you haven't been and figure out areas you can kind of step out and give it a try. And I love that. Affirm and acknowledge when you're in a conversation that might get a little dicey, it might get a little pointed. Affirm and acknowledge, man, I can feel like it'll help unemotionalize you.
Yeah. It brings the walls down.
You have that mindset. That's so good. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for challenging us to think differently. Till next time.
Bye-bye.